You should be sorting and writing out your thoughts for how you want to live your life in your head as if directing a movie. While writing this, you should be adding up all these figures. This costs how much, this costs how much, this donation is how much, and so on. Your estimate will go up quite high. Would $3,000 a month do? How about $7,000? Impossible! With that kind of money, you can't have your dream life. This is why the thought of you making $3,000 or $7,000 a month cannot energize you. Some folks even profess their love for ordinary people's lives. To hell with ordinary people's lives. I lived an ordinary person's life for 3 years and it sucked. After going bankrupt, I lived in a monthly rent home for $500 for 3 years. I felt in my bones how challenging it was to live an average life. Disavow yourselves from being an ordinary person. No one was born to suffer in poverty. No one has to wear a badge saying, "I'm poor." If you make up your mind that you will be rich and that you will be a leader in society, it will happen. How so? All the rich people out there became so because they dreamed about it. They weren't voted for in some election to become rich. Even when I declared that I would be very rich, nobody went on demonstration. Sure, I was called nuts a few times. But no one actively plotted against me. That didn't happen. People left me alone thinking I would just stop soon. The same is true for you folks too. No one's going to try to stop you. So why not make the declaration that you will become rich? Proclaim that you will be making $30,000 to $70,000 every month. Say to your friends, it's your call whether you join me or not. Just don't complain to me later that I didn't invite you. Make a grand declaration from the top of your lungs. You make such a determination, then a declaration, and things will come true. I know there are still some people who stubbornly insist that it's impossible. Let me be honest with you here. When I was poor, and I had this thought of becoming rich, I didn't really have 100% confidence in my heart that I could really make it. I was gravely ill, which prevented me from doing any work at all. Honestly, I thought I had a 1% chance to succeed and a 99% chance to fail. Nevertheless, we must march on. Looking at that 1%, imagine that you are captured in a cave where all you can see is black rocks. You might be able to see the tiny entrance from far away. The puny size of the entrance might be less than 1% compared to the area of the cave. Nevertheless, we can't just give up and say no to ourselves. We must move on, aiming at that tiny remote light far out there. We ought to walk toward that light one step at a time. That's exactly how I felt. Everywhere I looked said no to me. I even told myself, maybe I can't. Nevertheless, you must think that you will. When there's no hope, you must have hope. If you can't bring yourself to have hope, you are hopeless. Like I always say, when there is no hope, the only hope you can have is to have hope. When I was down and out and struggling to death, I said that to myself hundreds of thousands of times. When I was full of doubt and felt I was headed down a dead end, the only hope I had was to have hope. If you can't even afford hope, there's only despair left to be had. However, I couldn't just throw in the towel. Why not? I had my family that I loved dearly. I knew if I gave up, my loving wife would despair. My children would be forced to go through hardship, and my parents would be disappointed to no end. For the sake of my loving family members, I couldn't simply say I give up. I learned that in order to love, you have to live a good life. I married the love of my life after pursuing her for a year. We had lived pretty decently until my business went under. The tough period went on 1 year, 2 years, then 3 years. We lived on the money my wife brought home. Of the $1,500 a month, we used $500 for rent and took care of our 2 boys. We had to count every penny we spent and hesitated every moment while shopping. We struggled in that trying period for about 3 years. And this all led to more frequent quarreling. We didn't used to be an arguing couple. One winter day, I came home to a freezing house, so I said, "Honey, turn up the heater. There's no sense in trying to save money while poor." Then my wife went on the offensive, saying, "Do you think I'm not so cold that I want to max out the heater? If you had brought home a paycheck, we wouldn't be freezing right now. Your meager contribution is making us freeze this winter." She lectured that we had to be frugal, but men can be thoughtless, as you know. I said, "There's no point in trying to save money when you're poor. In fact, you should spend as much as you can, because you can only spend so much." I really ticked her off, don't you think? Our quarreling became more frequent. And one day, she finally said to me, "Dear, I want us to divorce after the kids graduate from high school." The thing is, she's a woman of her word. I heard her say that, and I felt crushed. I held onto her legs, and I cried like a baby. "My love, please don't go. I can't let you go." I told her she could leave me when I'd be able to buy her a house. I pointed out she didn't have any retirement saved. Far from it, she barely had a few $100s in the bank. "Let me take care of your older years. Then you can leave me." "Right, in a million years," she quipped. Now she has a great house and a bunch of money in the bank, yet she hasn't told me when she's going to be leaving. Financial insecurity tests our love. Because you want to be able to love and care for your loved ones wholeheartedly, you must think about a better life all the more. For you to be able to have such a great love, you must be determined to be better off. Start making detailed action plans and work to make them happen. Seriously, if I had given up in those days, what would have happened to my wife? There's a chance she'd have been just fine. The higher likelihood is that she would be having a really miserable life right now. She would be spending her remaining years poor and sick and having nothing to look forward to. That's something I could never, ever allow to happen to her. Even if the chance had been 1% for that, I would have risked everything I had to prevent it. Lo and behold, as I was hanging on to that single thread of hope and making steady steps toward the light at the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the cave slowly began to grow. When I finally got out of the cave, the whole world was open and bright for me. Even if you feel trapped in your heart, full of darkness and despair, and even if it's been that way for a while, if you felt there is some kind of light, that there might be light waiting for you out there, that you dared to have hope in your life and saw a glimpse of possibility of making your dreams come true, you have to hang on tight to that tiny light as if your life depended on it. Then, at the end, you will see your dreams come true. The truth is that things don't happen with a 100% guarantee. Even if the odds are 100 to 1 against you, you should hang on to that 1% and change it to 2%, 5%, 10%, 50%, and finally 100. All successful people have accomplished it that way. After finally succeeding, you can proudly announce to the world that you have achieved your goal despite all obstacles. Every winner has a miserable past. The more miserable their past was, the brighter their success will shine. The reason you're going through such a miserable time right now is for later, when you finally succeed. Then you can say to the world that even though you were thrown into the most trying adversity out there, you picked yourself up and you made it through. Your challenges and hardship are all for the glorious speech you will be making as a winner.